Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Azan and Nicole. Let's watch the show. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a couples therapist and a professor of couples therapy. Let's watch the show.
My mom wants to talk to me today because she's upset that I'm still going through this and not trying to think smarter or something.
So in my last episode about these two, I had the hypothesis that was being more and more confirmed with data that the mother and her have this dynamic where the child acts like a child, even though she's 22, and the mother treats her like a child. There's a lot of reasons why people will retain that, if she is a child, like she's 10, it's normal for a mother to treat a 10-year-old like a 10-year-old. It's normal for a 10-year-old to act like a 10-year-old. But as someone is 22, why would someone retain that style of not only behaving individually, but also interacting with each other? There's a lot of different reasons. Usually it's related to anxiety of if we change the relationship, we might fly apart. That's one of them. It's also related to, well, this is the way we've always interacted, so this is how things are. It also can be related to the schemas that Nicole has, where if she feels she's incompetent, she actually might suck people in to take care of her. And one of the ways you do that is to act very young. There's a lot of different hypotheses, but I've actually worked on a lot of relationships like this. So let's see what happens here. I'm guessing it's not going to go that great because the mother has an attitude that that the adult child is incompetent. And for Nicole, when she's around her mother, she tends to act like she is incompetent. So let's see what happens.
I just want you to meet him before you judge him.
There's a lot to be said about a man and the way he treats his woman.
I know, but...
So, I'm your mom. I love you with all my heart. And I need you to be honest with me. I need you to tell me the truth because I'm the one that's going to tell you the bold, honest truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
I know.
So right off the bat, we have this statement from the mom. I'm your mom, and I need you to tell me the truth. What kind of age would we typically see that kind of behavior? To a child, not to a 22-year-old adult woman. So right from the start, she's asserting her control. I need you to tell me the truth because, don't lie to me about Nicole's relationship and whether or not she wants to get married or not. That's up to Nicole. She is old enough. She can make her own choices. When you treat someone like a child, they tend to feel like a child and act like a child.
You have a hard time with people telling you anything you don't want to hear. So now it's time to tell me all the stuff you don't want to tell me. Come on. You're practically a total stranger to him. You guys may have talked on the internet, but you didn't really get to know each other. Something is not right. I can't believe you're okay with being treated that way.
I'm not okay with being treated this way.
Do not yell at me.
Then don't say that.
In the beginning of my career, many of my clients were teenagers. And I'm not putting Nicole down. I want to be clear when I say this, but she's definitely acting like a teenager. She's literally whining. I don't want to, I'm not putting her down. I'm not mocking her. I just want to be clear. It's an assessment technique to figure out what is going on in Nicole, what sort of arrested development, what sort of defenses are going on, what sort of dynamic is happening here. Because we don't see Nicole acting this way all the time. She tends to react this way typically with her mom. So there's something about their dynamic that makes Nicole feel like a child and makes her exhibit this kind of behavior. When she exhibits this kind of behavior, it compels a mother to treat someone like a child. If I had a 22-year-old daughter who was acting like this, it would be very hard for me not to treat them like they were a 13-year-old, even though they're not a 13-year-old, because she's acting like a 13-year-old or even a younger person. So if I were in this room, I'd be like, okay, well, let's slow down here. Nicole, what's going on for you right now? Let's differentiate. Let's think about your feelings. Let's think about your thoughts. What are you trying to get out of this conversation? What do you want from your mother right now? You're a grown, and I might say something like this. You're a grown woman. You can make your own choices. Do you want your mom to be an advisor to you? What kind of role do you want your mom to play in your adult decisions? So you hear my words, and I'm sending a message to everyone in this family. This woman is an adult, and she is in control of her own life. And we want to build her up, because when we build people up, they act more mature, they make better decisions. When we tear people down, they tend to be more confused because they're ashamed or they just feel incompetent. They get all kind of mixed up and they don't know what to do. Another thing that could be happening that I've talked about before is Nicole, in her effort to graduate to the next level in relation to her mom, she might be dating Azan in an effort to say, Mom, you can't control me. We've seen this before, right? It's kind of a trope, right? Where a teenage child will date someone that their parents don't want them to date. Romeo and Juliet, that kind of thing. It's one of the ways that teenagers have in their toolbox to begin to develop their own individuality. Now, it's not individuality because you're actually only doing it to say no to your parents. So it's not really what you want to do. You're just doing it because your parents don't want you to do it. And you think that by doing something your parents don't want you to do, you're doing something independent, which is you're not. You're just experimenting with independence. As I always say, there are 3 stages to assertiveness. There's the first stage, which is to do whatever the other person says and to resent it. And then the second stage is to rebel and say no all the time. And the third stage is to stand on your own 2 feet and assert yourself, but also think about the other person's feelings and be able to differentiate the situation. If Nicole were to exhibit that third stage, it would be something like, Mom, I get what you're saying. I'm with you. I'm just as worried as you are. I'm living this life. And so I appreciate that you're worried. But I don't appreciate you telling me obvious things because it makes me feel stupid. It makes me think you think I'm stupid. So I'd like you to be a supportive person. I don't want you to tell me what to do. It bothers me. Trust me, I understand all the ins and outs of this situation. The situation, I love him, and I believe that he loves me, and I believe that that love will save the day. But it might not, and so I'm a little worried, and I am concerned. And I just want you to be there for me to talk about this with, but I don't want you to try to control me. I don't want you to put me down. That would be a differentiated thing to say. But when you're not allowed to differentiate in your family, or you don't get enough therapy to differentiate from your family, you tend to think of yourself and operate from a very younger place, which she seems to be doing.
Now it's time to tell me all the stuff you don't want to tell me. Come on. You're practically a total stranger to him. You guys may have talked on the internet, but you didn't really get to know each other. Something is not right. I can't believe you're okay with being treated that way.
I'm not okay with being treated this way.
Do not yell at me.
Then don't say that.
Where's your brain, Nicole? I mean, seriously, this was an impossible relationship to start with.
Yikes. Yikes. Where is your brain, Nicole? Yikes. This was an impossible relationship to start with. Yikes.
Why? Because his world is so different from yours, you can't wrap your head around it. It makes no sense to you.
So Nicole's like, wait, why? Why was it? Now, if you were assertive, if you were in that stage 3, you'd be like, Mom, you know what? You don't know what's happening. You don't even understand. You've never met him. So, but if you're made to feel like you're not important and that you're stupid and that you're developmentally young and incompetent, when someone says something like, your relationship was doomed from the beginning, and she's like, huh, why? And then the mom said, I want to listen back to what the mom says because it was so perfectly in line with what I've been saying, because instead of saying, well, you're from 2 different cultures, it's just really hard to have 2 different cultures come together, or you only met online, you barely knew. She put it on her. She put it on her.
I mean, seriously, this was an impossible relationship to start with. Why? Because his world is so different from yours, you can't wrap your head around it. It makes no sense to you.
You can't wrap your head around it. It doesn't make sense to you. because you're so stupid. I mean, that's very clearly the message to her. Very clearly a message of you're so stupid. Now, when we watch this, it's very easy to get mad at the mom. Why would you say that to your adult child? Why would you say that to your child of any age? Why would you be so hurtful in that instance? Well, let's hypothesize, because I've treated mothers like this before, parents like this before. She might have been treated this way in her own life, or she might have had a sibling who was had a role in the family as the scapegoat and the incompetent one, and it was her job to control the family elected mom when she was a child to take care of that other sibling. And so she has a way of dealing with people that is very black and white. You're either a smart person or you're a super stupid person, sort of black and white thinking. The mother might feel very guilty about something, very shameful about the way she parented. A lot of divorced parents will feel very shameful about dragging their kids through a divorce, and because of that, they worry that their kids won't develop well. And there are many different ways to deal with that worry and that shame, and one way is to actually control your kid, to sort of force them to be healthy. It's like you're really trying to make your kid to be happy. You want your kid, every parent wants their kid to be happy, and because they're so anxious, they force the kid to be happy instead of letting the kid find their own happiness, if that makes any sense. And when you force a kid to be happy in the way you think they should be happy, obviously that makes the kid very unhappy. But that's the way defenses work. So those are some things. There could have been some kind of sexual assault that either one of them went through or both. Maybe Nicole went through a sexual assault. It's actually really quite common for young people to have been sexually assaulted. Maybe the mother feels guilty about that or worried that that might happen in general, that Nicole might be exploited, and it's her job to protect her because she didn't protect her in the past. Again, I'm just spitballing right now. So instead of just looking at the mom and saying, like, what's wrong with her? Why is she being such a jerk? It's helpful to imagine what sort of defenses would and desperations and traumas of the mom's past that would cause her to treat the daughter this way. The other thing, as I said in a previous episode, as your child exhibits incompetence, no matter what age they are, it's very common for a parent, because it's your role, it sucks people in. And Nicole is not making it easy for the mom in this instance. They're both causing each other's behavior. The mom is making her feel like a child, so she's acting like a child. She's acting like a child, which makes her treat her like a child. The way she's whining, she's not seeing the bigger picture. She's not explaining. When we pull her away from her mom and they interview her by herself, she exhibits that no nuance thinking of just like, well, I don't know. I mean, I love him, and I feel like he needs to change some things, but I do have some worries. So, she's mature. She can have those thoughts, but she's not exhibiting that right now. And that obviously worries the mom and sucks her in. So it's just a very common enmeshed circle that happens in families a lot.
What happens when something doesn't make sense to you? Look at me. What happens? You bulldoze your way through it, and you take everything down with you on.
So that desperation in the mom, that shame in the mom, that defense in the mom, that maybe she was modeled bad parenting, is obviously clouding her empathy in this moment. Her daughter is crying. How about just slow down, slow your roll, and just say, what's going on with you, Nicole? Tell me, how are you feeling? You're obviously really sad. Is it me? Did I make you sad? Get off of the train that you're on and actually attend to your loved one.
The way through.
I don't know what to do.
You know what to do, honey.
I don't want...
You know what to do. You need to pray about this. You need to listen to the people that love you because they love you. They're not doing anything to hurt you. And do the right thing for you and for me.
So, wow, in another context, this would look like a cult initiation or something, where someone is beating someone into believing that they're so incompetent, and then the control can really begin. Breaking someone down ego-wise and then saying, you know what to do. You know what's right. What I told you to do, which is to break up with him. It's very implied in that language. And I just feel so bad for Nicole in this moment. Having said that, you heard that language. to hold, to cry and say, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. That looks, if we were to look at that mother and child, and we don't know the age of the child, and the child is going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. We would think that the child would not be 22. Now, it's totally fine to have a moment of being 22 or 92 and be like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. But the way that she does it is in a way that gives off a vibe. It's a consistent pattern between these two people of this is a sort of an acute manifestation of a general vibe that she has with her mom of I'm incompetent. And I don't know if I said it in this episode or a previous episode, but there are pros and cons to being in that underfunctioner position where one, the cons are you get treated terribly. But the good thing about being in that underfunctioner position and being treated like you're a child is that you can just throw your hands up and someone will sweep in and fix your problems for you. You don't have to think for yourself. And that for Nicole, she might be kind of doing that right now. She's just throwing her hands up and sort of sucking her mom in so her mom, and she knows that her mom's going to take over and take control. Now, it's very complicated, right? Because on one hand, someone's sweeping in and helping you, but you also aren't being able to do things from your own agency. So it's very fraught to reach out to someone and have them sweep in and take care of you. And of course, Nicole isn't asking explicitly for that control to sweep in, but she's giving off that vibe. Like if I were to pull Nicole aside before this conversation, I would say, so Nicole, what do you think your mom's going to say to you? Well, she's probably going to be very critical. Okay. If you start to cry and say something like, I don't know what to do, what do you think your mom's going to do? Well, my mom's going to sweep in and take control. Okay. So how can we prevent that from happening? How can we prevent that pattern? So both people kind of know that this interaction is probably going to work out the way they do. Usually when I talk with people, they usually will say, yeah, this has happened hundreds of times. Nicole has probably been in a situation like this hundreds of times with her mom. But because of the enmeshment and because of the emotional field, because of the lack of differentiation for both people, they just fall right back into that pattern. And both people get kind of what they want, but not really what they want.
Because remember, no matter what you do, she's in this. She doesn't have a choice.
I don't know if I can just end it.
I know, sweetie.
I don't want to.
Sometimes what we think we want, what we hang on to so hard is not good for us.
Yikes. Is this why you wanted me to watch this? I'm only going back to this season and watching this couple because you all asked me. And since I've been watching this through the season, I've been wondering, I was like, why are people wanting, well, maybe it's because the two of them get in a fight. Maybe this is the reason why everyone wanted me to watch this. Just listen to that language. I'm going to rewind this, but this is the sort of language that a cult member does. It's highly coercive. You break someone down and you tell them that they're incompetent and you tell them what to do while loving them. You break them down, they start crying, you take care of them, but you give all these messages of you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. And it, literally in what she just said, she said that sometimes what you want, you don't really want. That's brainwashing stuff right there.
You need to listen to the people that love you because they love you and they're not doing anything to hurt you, and do the right thing for you and for May. Because remember, no matter what you do, she's in this. She doesn't have a choice.
I don't know if I can just end it.
I know, sweetie.
I don't want to.
Sometimes what we think we want, what we hang on to so hard is not good for us. She's trying to bulldoze her way through a relationship that it's not going to end well. I know in my heart that this is not the right move for her.
How do you know? That is quite a statement. I'm 100% positive this is a disaster. How would you know that? You don't have hardly any, none of us have any data on that. Yes, it's possible. It could be a disaster. It's very possible that Nicole and Azan are a disaster of a couple. Who knows? But there's no way for anyone to know the answer to that question. And for the mom to just be so sure about that. Now, why would the mom be so sure about that? Well, because she's probably had many years of a narrative of Nicole as being incompetent and not able to make her own choices. And it might also be a racism thing. I don't know. There's not any overt messages around that, but who knows? So yeah, this is really interesting to see and not pleasant to watch.
You deserve so much better.
I know. I can't just let go that easily. It's not who I am. I know I should, and I know a lot of people would, but it's just, I can't. I'm not that way.
So that's interesting. I'm not that way. I wonder what she means by that. I wonder if she's also just not quite sure if she wants to let go. Now, I will say that the mom isn't evil, okay? I've treated many people like this, many parents like this. They're not evil. It comes from a place of anxiety. It comes from a place of love, of I'm worried about my daughter being unhappy, and I know that my daughter doesn't know what she's doing, and so I'm going to step in. It's just minus 15 years, and that would actually be totally normal. A 17-year-old who is like, you know what, Mommy and Daddy, I want to move out of the house because I feel like I'm old enough to move out of the house, and I'm going to live in a shack down the street because I'm big enough now and I'm smart enough. Well, you're not going to let your kid do that, right? You don't just let your 7-year-old move into a shack down the street. That's just not an option. You're going to absolutely control that, and you're going to step in and you're going to say, no, honey, I know you want to do that, but you don't really know what you're talking about because you can't get a job. You don't know how to pay bills. That shack doesn't even have a toilet in it. You could get hurt, and it's frankly illegal for me to let you move into that shack. So it's just not going to happen. You don't know what you're talking about, 7-year-old. So that would be normal, right? Depending on the tone, but that would be normal. So there's nothing wrong with feeling anxious about your kid, worrying about your kid's decisions. But when someone's 22, you hopefully have gradually helped a child become more competent and feel like they can stand on their own 2 feet, and then you're an advisor to their life. And you can throw things out there, like the mom could say something like, you know what, I don't know if you and Azan are a good couple because I don't know. I'm just your mom. I've barely seen the two of you interact, and I don't know. But I just have to say, the things you've told me have really, really worried me, and I'm terrified for you because I love you. But I trust you that you'll be able to see this thing through, and I trust you that you'll be able to figure out what to do in the end. I'll also say that I'm worried about my granddaughter, and I know that you are too because you're a very loving mother. That's not what she said. I want to rewind and watch the whole thing again because just in contrast to what I just said, watch what the mom actually did say.
His world is so different from yours, you can't wrap your head around it. It makes no sense to you. Look at me. What happens? You bulldoze your way through it. And you take everything down with you on the way through.
I don't know what to do.
You know what to do, honey.
I don't want...
You know what to do. You need to pray about this. You need to listen to the people that love you because they love you. They're not doing anything to hurt you. I know in my heart that this is not the right move for her.
I can't just let go that easily. It's not who I am. I can't. I'm not that way.
Yeah, tough to watch. And I get where the mom's coming from. I totally do. If she were my client, I'd be like, I totally understand where you're coming from. It makes total sense that you're scared. It makes total sense that you believe that this is a disaster or it makes total sense. It's not uncommon for a mother in your position to believe that this is going to be a disaster. I totally get that. But what's the solution to the problem? Is the solution to control your child and to tell them that you know what's best for them? Or is it to help the child learn how to make their own decisions about their own life? And maybe that decision will be to break up with Azan, which you clearly seem to be convinced that's the best option. Or maybe it's some other nuanced decision that you can't really think of. So let's let's give the child the ability to make that choice on their own. Let's be a support to her. She's an adult. Do you want to take care of her for the rest of her life? I'm guessing not. So let's not control her. Let's give her a chance. Now, what I would also say to the mom is, you've been treating this child, after I investigated this, I would say, you've been treating this child like they're a child throughout their life when you should have been, helping them to build their own self-esteem. Or we would figure out as to what went wrong in the development or the relationship within the family that caused this dynamic to become stagnant. And so I'd say, so you're going to see, so I've seen this before. I've had 40-year-olds like Nicole who think they're incompetent, they're very dependent, they will give off a very childish vibe, they'll suck people into taking control of them, they'll suck people into over-functioning for them. And we will work on the family system, we'll work on them. And when they're finally given it, when I finally do that, when I say, okay, everyone, let's start supporting, let's not control, let's support, well, the behaviors you will see in that 40-year-old will look like a 13-year-old because developmentally, in terms of their own decision-making, they are a 13-year-old. So they're not going to suddenly jump to 40 because they are age 40. You haven't given them a chance to be a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old. And they've got to go through those stages, which means that they might make terrible decisions because 13-year-olds often make terrible decisions. But you just have to let them learn from their own mistakes and be able to stand back and say, wow, that was a big mistake. But that's what you should have let them do when they were 13, when the stakes were much lower. Now that they're 40 or 22, it's going to look like there are more stakes to it. But we've got to accelerate this developmental process where she can have her own self-esteem, make her own choices, be given the vibe from her loved ones that she can make her own choices, that you trust her, and that you're not going to tell her what to do, and that you don't know what's right for her. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining me on this journey. And please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.